Oh my gosh, are y'all already here? Hold on. Oh my gosh, are you guys already in here? One second, let me pull up the chat. Oh my gosh, hi everybody. Hello, 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 hello. Long time no see. Thank you for, it looks like some of you guys were waiting. Thank you so much. Hi, hello, hello from Florida. Hi. The camera quality is bad. I'm sorry, it is bad. Yeah, it is. It's just a webcam. It's a 1080p, so it's not my normal camera quality. I have to get my regular camera set up, so I apologize for the quality for today. It's gonna be a little messy, but we'll deal with it. Let's see. Miss you on Ryan Hall. I miss you guys too. You guys are always so kind. What's the music? The music is DMCA copyright free relaxing lo-fi beats. It's like the third one that came up. Mr. Videos, hi. Oh my gosh, hi everybody. I'm so happy to talk to you guys. It's been a few weeks. Raymond, hello! A radar confirmed tornado in New Jersey this afternoon. I just saw that. I just got on Twitter like a few minutes ago and saw that. I saw NATOcast had posted like the equivalent of a 2 or 5% today, which was interesting. Blaze is here, Grace. Don't worry. I'll show him to you guys in just a second. Do you guys want to see Blaze? James paying him a new subscriber. Hello! I'm happy to have you. Gerald! We have somebody in here from Gerald. Hi, Hawkins. I'm trying to read everybody's messages. Yeah, hi, hello. You guys want to see Blaze? I'll show you Blaze. Did you see him? I think he just went back here. You guys know Blaze would be with me always, right? Say hi, boys. You have something to say? He has nothing to say, but he's happy to be here too. Oh my gosh. The Real Necro, thank you so much for joining the Wedge formation. Holy cow. Welcome. Thank you. I just started channel memberships, you guys, about 2 weeks ago. I haven't put out any new content. Obviously, I've just moved. It's been a little overwhelming, but I am working on that now. So I apologize if you've joined and have been waiting. It's coming very soon. So thank you so much for joining. Hello from Chicago. Hello. Yeah, if you guys want to hit the like button for the stream, that does help me in the algorithm. Also, oh, let me post this on Twitter too. Hold on. Let me get it together here. Hold on 1 second. There. And I've got this on Instagram too. Hold on. Okay. Yeah, Blaze is always with me, guys. Wherever I go, Blaze is gonna be here, so no matter what. You want to cuddle with Blaze so much? He's a very elusive little critter. He really never comes out. It's honestly kind of cool that you guys can see him because he's always hiding, so. You saw a tornado in Smithville Thursday at the Dome? Holy cow. I have been really out of touch with weather this week, guys. I am really sorry. But I'm getting back into it, and I just wanted to catch up with you guys and let you know that I'll be resuming content very soon. I just am going to be refilming what I've got going on. I refilmed the Tri-State tornado that I had worked on for the second time, and I don't want to use it, so I'm going to make it the third time. I think the third time is going to be the charm, so yeah. Josh Fairweather, can't stop long, but say I hope you're well. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And Charlie Hall from England, hello. Thank you so much for coming. Johnny Oldfield, Sparky, my cat, is staring at Blaze. Hopefully in a good way. hope your move is going smoothly. It has. I am going to show you guys the office in a minute, I guess, when maybe a few more people get in here. I don't know. It's not much, but we're going to sort of build it together, and I'll get y'all's feedback. So yeah. Some of you guys are under winter storm warning. I'm so out of the weather loop this week. Do you have AirPods? Yes, I do. Is the quality terrible? I apologize. It's gonna be a little... The video and the audio quality is gonna be not great for a little bit, guys. I apologize. Eric, you're not late. I just started. You're fine. I just started. Yeah, the Tri-State video, I filmed it back in December the first time. Hated it. Decided to film it again. Don't want to use it, so I'm going to film it a third time. I've had the script written for it for like ever. Kilgore, I absolutely love your channel. Do you have any future plans to do episodes on lesser known but deadly damaging? Yes, certainly. I'm always down to recommendations. I hope you guys know I keep all of the recommendations you have for me. There's just so many, and you know, I'm going to be making these videos for a long time, so I will get to them. But yeah, ideally I would like to talk about lesser known tornado events. Emperor, thank you so much for saying that about the Gerald video. It's always been my favorite event to talk about, so. Bethany, hi, it's so good to see you here. I hope we're doing good today too. Thank you for coming. Yeah, the Tri-State tornado video has to be the best one. It's like arguably one of the most infamous in American history, so I can't half-ass it, you know. It has to be the best. And I really want you guys to enjoy it, and it's really research intensive. Obviously, there's not going to be as much video to look at with that one, so it's a lot of storytelling, and I want to make sure it's done, you know, as good as possible. Reed, you're inspiring my wife to get into streaming. Hey, that's awesome. I'm so happy to hear that. Do you guys mind if I crack open a cold one? Is that okay with you guys? I kind of want to have a drink. Travis Martin, welcome to the Rope Club. Thank you so much for joining. Nostalgic, what am I covering next? Tri-State tornado. The Tri-State tornado. I'm just scrapping the video I have, so I want it to be perfect. Noonan EF4 came dangerously close to Atlanta Metro. Yeah, I was there. It was really terrifying. It was very scary. Okay, you guys ready? Can't open it like that. I gotta keep it down here. Okay. Cheers. Thank you guys. I just didn't want to be rude. If you guys don't have a drink and I do. Thanks everybody. Very shy, so probably not going to be a frequent chatter, but I'm happy to support. Thank you so much. You don't have to be a frequent chatter. I subscribe to a lot of Twitch channels that I don't frequently chat in, but I totally understand just kind of enjoying someone's content, and it just makes me really happy that you guys are here and enjoying the content. So any plans for the video on the March 93 Storm of the Century? No, but no current plans, but I'm down to do that. I need to cover Oaklawn. Actually, let me write that down. Sorry, I don't have that one written down. A little cheers to my container frosting and graham crackers. Hell yeah. Loving your hairdo. Thank you. Okay, do you guys want to see the office? I think we have some people here. What does the WX in your channel name represent? It's like weather. If you go on weather Twitter, anyone who's into weather has WX in their name. It's kind of a giveaway that you are a weather nerd. So pretty much anyone there is having WX in their name. Okay guys, you want to see the office? It's not done, so you're just gonna get a look at the bare bones. It's a very small office, but it's going to be cozy, and I think it's going to make the sound quality better in my videos, and yeah, and then you guys are going to help me decide where to put the stuff. So let me just give you a little tour here. Hold on. Can we get the Blaze cursed pics? I'll post them on Twitter if you guys want to see cursed Blaze pics. June 1st! Before I show you the office, everyone, we are likely going to watch a June 1st video later after we do all the office stuff. So if you see June 1st in the chat, hands down, seriously, like, if I'm going to watch tornado documentaries, they're going to be June 1st. So we're going to watch some later, but yeah, check it out. Am I going to be playing more on Twitch? I can if you guys want to. It'll be like Skyrim and stuff. All right, here we go. Okay. Clearly this is the living room. Okay, but the office is small, so I'm gonna turn it around. I know this is literally the worst thing ever, but I can only do so much with a webcam, so it's just, you guys see, it's just the window on one side, and then back here, the door, and then literally just a wall. I'll give you guys a better door at some point. But so my plan is to put all of the frames and stuff that I normally have back here and probably film in the corner. I'm not really sure. So I think it's going to be a little bit cozier actually that way. Purple Rain, June 1st is, if you see someone in the comments named June 1st, it's a channel. His name's Ethan, and just a really cool friend and someone who makes really great tornado content from a mechanical engineering perspective. So honestly, like, it's such a unique perspective to bring, especially to content creation, so I really enjoy it. It's a very small office. Let me show you guys. The pictures that I had before are going to go up too, but since I am not in a house now, I have to be careful about putting holes in the wall. So I actually am going to ask about putting holes in the wall before I just hammer the hell out of the wall. So but we've got the same old stuff I had before. This is by someone I really like. His name is Alex Span, and beautiful, right? And this one. Kylo Meep. We literally had the same vacuum cleaner. Isn't it a good vacuum cleaner? Thank you so much. A cat tree. Yes, that's a great idea. Blaze is really picky about what he wants, but I am down to try anything. Bentley, did you have a discussion on the more tornadoes? I've done 99 more. I've not done 2013 more. It's on the agenda. You know, more 2013 is like, it's not just fatalities, it's children as well. So some of those I kind of have to space out. They're a little bit heavier for me to talk about. Command hooks are going to be good for these smaller ones. So these are Pecos Hank ones. This one. I love that one so much. Beautiful color. And then this one. So those are all going up in the back. I just need to get permission before I hammer into the wall. But what do you guys think? I think I'll just, when I film, probably change the angle so you guys can see. And then I'll have my degrees up there because I don't use them very much outside of you guys seeing them. I moved, so I'm not in the regular space anymore. The Funko Pop is Geralt of Rivia. Do I have advice for someone who wants to be a storm chaser? No, because because it's like the most terrifying thing to me. I think I'll do it this year though. I want to do a storm chase this year. So sorry, I'm trying so hard to keep up with everybody. Oh, Tom, geez, I'm so sorry to hear that. The black and white was really nice. I think that one's my favorite. It's a Pecos Hank photo. So it was extra, but like it's one of, I think, his more famous ones that he's taken. So it was worth it. Yeah, I'm gonna use some of those the tape things for the smaller ones, but like the degree, there's no way I can hang up the degree with the, I'll have to hammer something into the wall. Hanging out with you feels like a safe space. Thank you so much, Jonathan. That's a really sweet compliment. I appreciate that. I don't think anybody chases with Pecos Hank though. He's very much a lone cowboy, which makes him even cooler. Like as if he could be any cooler. You know what I mean? What type of car do I drive? I'm not telling you that. You might start out storm stalking and make your way up to chasing. I love that. Actually, I like that a lot. Yeah, but I think once we, after we chat a little bit, we should watch the June 1st damage analysis of the Parkersburg video, because I've done a video on Parkersburg, but in no way does it encapsulate the damage the way that I know that June 1st is going to talk about it. So I'm really excited about this. So that's what we're going to be doing later. The beer I'm drinking is an Angry Orchard, which is not, I guess, not very hardcore, but it's good and I like it. Best story to come out of the Moore 99 tornado was a woman who hid in a central closet in her home. She came out of her closet to find the closet the only part of the house standing. I believe that. Yeah. Oh yeah. June 1st is a very nice guy off camera, by the way. I believe it. The Funko Pop behind me, Rob, is Geralt of Rivia. It's the only one I have, but it's the only one I would ever have because I love him so much. Coca-Cola or Pepsi? I guess Coke. Oh yeah, someone was mentioning a collab with Weatherbox. I'm down to do collabs with anyone ever. Alfiria or June 1st and I talked about it, or whoever. I mean, I'm down for anything. Boys, come here. Yeah, we can watch Storm Stories. We can watch June 1st. I kind of want to watch the June 1st video. There's also Storm Stories. If you like hard cider, try Down East. Ooh, I've never heard of that. I am a big cider fan. If I go storm chasing this year, everybody, I want you to know it's going to be with Andy Hill or nobody else. It'll be with Andy. That's it. I trust Andy with my life, literally. You were, wow, you were in Oklahoma City on May 3rd, 99? Holy cow. I imagine that was really chaotic. I really like, I chat with Alfiria sometimes, especially on Twitter, and I really like their videos too, so. Am I excited for the new Storm Chaser movie coming out this year? Are y'all talking about the one with Alec Baldwin? Or maybe Alec Baldwin is maybe, and I'm not really sure. I haven't watched the trailer. I know that a big one's coming out next year. I'm looking forward to that. I haven't watched the trailer for the other one, so. Barry Bones, hello. I hope you're doing well. Give old Barry a pat for me. Blaze is so well behaved. Blaze is the best pet I could have ever had in my life. I've had him for 12 years now. Have I done a video on Springfield? No, I have not, but I can. No spirits in my liquor cabinet. In fact, I only have 2 beers. So that's it. I'm not big into drinking, but I do like having a beer every once in a while. Or a glass of wine. Yes, Ryan Hall's Andy Hill. The only Andy Hill. Not great promise for the movie. Thank you for telling me, Eric. I trust your opinion. I haven't watched the trailer or anything. Yeah, I'm streaming from a new place. Sorry, I really am trying. If I'm missing anybody's comments, I do apologize. I don't have any moderators or anything. So the fact that you guys are already really being really kind and normal is great. So I appreciate it. But I apologize if I miss any comments. When do I use AirPods? I don't know. I guess at the gym or if I'm out in public sometimes. Barry's pats have been received. Thank God. There's a Storm Chaser movie. Let me see if I can find it for you guys. I'll make me smaller. That way you guys can see what I'm looking at. How's that? My keyboard's going to be loud because it's mechanical. This one. A teenage boy runs away to follow his father's footsteps. The legendary Storm Chaser. Ew, Bill Brody. What kind of name is that? Y'all want to watch the trailer? I think we should watch the trailer. Am I doing okay? I'm doing okay. Thank you for asking. Yeah. I'm ready to just get my stuff set up and film a video for you guys and make it great and keep on trucking. And it's going to be the Tri-State Tornado video. That is what I'm working on. Oh yeah, guys, I did hear that Pecos Hank footage is going to be in the video. Thank you for pointing that out. Tanner, thank you. Oh, volunteer mod. Yeah, I you know what? You guys are just so nice that I've never needed mods, which is really kind, and I appreciate that. Don't watch the trailer. We're gonna watch the trailer. I'm sorry. Okay. Y'all ready? Okay. I'm a little disappointed that... Is Bill Brody the character's name? I mean, that just sounds a little... Okay, let's watch it. I don't know, y'all. It didn't really make me feel super crazy about it. I, in some ways, kind of like Alec Baldwin. Don't come for me for saying that, but... Will I see it? Probably not. Will it inspire a generation of Storm Chasers? Maybe. Maybe not. I guess we'll see, but I don't know. Do I plan on working with Ryan Hall again? I don't know. I want to get my master's degree first, and yeah. Tom, wish you the best in your new setup. I don't know if your life changes. You alluded to, but I hope the best for you. Never stop tracing. Thank you so much, Tom. I really, really, really appreciate that. It means a lot. Thank you so much. looks pretty cheesy. Yeah, y'all, I think we're on the same page. It's it was something. Yeah, it does look pretty generic. It Eric, it looks like I want to know what kind of research they did for the script writing and stuff. Like, who taught them Bear's Cage? Who wrote the script? It makes me really curious, like, how much of the Storm Chaser lingo they're going to know. Did they consult somebody? It's not Twister material. It'll never be Twister material. Do you have a degree in weather? No, I have an English degree, which is hilarious. I have an English degree with a concentration in rhetoric. Oh, Blaze is here. Oh, wow, Blaze really wants to say hi to y'all. Say hi. Hi, buddy. He's showing y'all his butt. His butt, yeah. It's a little messy. You want to hang out? Oh, they did do consulting? Thank you, Ethan, for telling me that. I guess if they're going to consult anybody, Skip Talbot and Pecos Hank are the people to consult. I guess Blaze really missed y'all. I'll give him a kiss. Come here, boys. You want a kiss? Come here. Oh. Are you okay? He did not want that kiss. Okay, y'all ready to watch something? Y'all want to watch something? How is Blaze handling the move? He's handling the move really well. I've moved Blaze 3 times now. And, yeah, I can't ask for a better cat. Seriously, he's the best cat ever. I mean, he's nervous at first, but he gets used to it. So, yes, I do know who Brandon Kopic is. I talk to him all the time. Not all the time. I've talked to him many times. Very nice guy. They should do they should make a movie based on Reed Timmer. Zero Riz. Thanks, guys. Yeah, true. No Riz. Okay. We're watching, for those of you who did not hear, we're going to be watching the June 1st video. And this one is a damage analysis on the Parkersburg, Iowa EF5. I've actually put this video link in the description of this live stream. So, let me just show you guys. Yeah, June 1st. Subscribe. I'm telling you guys, these are like really well done. So, like the video and subscribe if you want to. But yeah, the link is in the description. It's June 1st. Thank you so much, Larry, for joining the Rope Club. I really appreciate it. Okay, y'all ready? Let me know if it's too loud or too soft, and I'll adjust it for you. Carl's a maniac, your cat? Okay. All right.
On May 25th, 2008, a storm complex that had already wreaked havoc across the high plains moved into the upper Midwest. By the end of that day, a small town just northwest of Waterloo, Iowa, would become cemented in tornado history. My name is Ethan Moriarty. I'm a mechanical engineer with a fascination in tornado damage forensics. This is a damage analysis of the Parkersburg EF5.
By the way, I actually like the way Ethan has set up in a corner. Like, I think it looks very cozy. And that's kind of the vibe I'm going for, more cozy. So, I think with a smaller room, this is actually a great way to do that.
Before we get into the damage analysis of the tornado itself, let's first look into a brief history and get into the meteorological breakdown that allowed this tornado to take place. As mentioned earlier, this tornado took place on May 25th, 2008, as a part of a multi-day severe weather outbreak across the central United States. In the days prior, a notable tornado took place in Windsor, Colorado, achieving an EF3 rating. Northern Colorado isn't typically known for large tornadoes, but this mile-wide tornado went down as one of the largest tornadoes in Colorado.
Shane, a celebrity has entered the chat. Hello, thank you so much for joining the Rope Club. And by the way, if you have memberships, I am joining one. Thank you so much.
State history.
Glad to see you.
Making this severe weather outbreak
Just now got memberships, so you're all good.
particularly notable before the Parkersburg event even took place. By the morning of the 25th, the surface low associated with this system was over the upper Midwest, over the states of Minnesota, North Dakota, reaching into Canada as well. The warm front with this surface low was oriented north-south and reaching into the Midwest, while behind it was a cold front crashing in from the plains. In between the two fronts was a potent warm sector that was composed of very high dew points and instability that ranged
Juicy.
to 3,000 joules per kilogram.
The juicy sector.
While the northern storms in Minnesota were past the warm front, right around the triple point, a storm in northern Iowa would eventually use that warm front as a convergence zone. This supercell would be the one that would spawn the Parkersburg EF5, and it took full advantage of said warm front. Parkersburg was struck relatively early on in the tornado's life cycle, and the tornado would make a direct impact
Look at
with the
this
south
editing.
side
Are
of
you
town,
kidding me?
significantly damaging
This is why I always advertise Ethan's channel so much. It's because it's genuinely so good.
many homes and businesses, including the town's high school.
The juicy
Further
sector.
downstream,
Mhm.
the town of New Hartford would miss a direct hit, though one of the sub-communities further north would receive a direct hit, damaging several homes, some of which
Stephen Powers, thank you so much for joining. Thank you. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
to EF5
Welcome,
status.
welcome.
After New Hartford, the tornado would continue for another 25 miles over mostly farmland, though several more homes and farmsteads were hit before the tornado dissipated.
And look at that track, by the way. Look at how erratic that is.
43 miles from its origin point. In terms of human casualties, there were 70 reported injuries, and unfortunately, there were also 9 fatalities, 7 of which were in Parkersburg, 2 in New Hartford. The heart of Parkersburg was the most significantly impacted area from this tornado, several buildings receiving EF5 level damage indicators. The housing development in New Hartford that was also struck also saw one EF.
Where's Andy? I don't know. I'm sure Andy's in his home. I'll have to ask him.
damage indicator assigned. With the tornado history and statistics out of the way, let's dive into the damage analysis. Let's first take a look at some of the foundations of the homes that were in Parkersburg. Many of the foundations in Parkersburg were constructed of concrete masonry unit blocks. These CMU blocks are used to pour concrete.
I could be wrong on this because I have a seriously hard time remembering all of the specifics of the tornado events. From what I remember covering Parkersburg, a lot of the homes and stuff were pretty well built. Maybe some were newly built. I can't remember, but it feels like they were well built at the very least. I guess we'll find out.
Around them as they provide an able foundation for the house to be built upon. Oftentimes with these foundations there is also rebar that is placed in order to maintain the stiffness of the foundation. When looking through some of the images of the foundations from the National Weather Service survey, I found this image. We could see that this photo here has a rebar reinforcement of this foundation completely sheared. So I wanted to figure out how much force it took to shear that stock of rebar.
Finding out how much force it takes to shear the rebar. Y'all are not going to find this anywhere else. Let me tell you what. You won't find this content anywhere else. Homes are typically a lot better built in the north. I mean, as a southerner, I believe that. Helmets, Eric? That's, you know what? Actually, that's a great thought. I don't know. I just know that I've heard it for probably a couple years as well. I mean, I don't know. That's interesting though. But yeah, I actually have a helmet because I am super paranoid. So I hope y'all do too, actually.
Dropping into our
I'm going to go crack open another beer and I'll play this for you guys.
sketch pad here, we're going to quickly just draw out a quick little cross section of our rebar here. So, this is the area that this is going to shear in, this little cross section here. From what I was able to measure from the image, this appears to be a number 4 stock rebar, which is roughly 0.5 inches in diameter, so a ½ inch in diameter. This is the diameter symbol, by the way. It's
you can find it in a
commonly
textbook.
used,
Thank you for everybody who
in
swiftly
engineering
corrected me.
documents,
I
this
just meant
kind
that
of zero with a slash through it.
this kind of
In
content,
order to shear
like,
something, we obviously have to have
people
a
don't make
force
this kind of
acting on
content
it
for
in this
tornadoes on
direction,
YouTube, so
not axially through the rebar, but rather against and shearing through the rebar stock. So of course we're going to have an equal and opposite reaction.
still have your high school football helmet. That's awesome.
This rebar stock, since this is kind of cemented into the foundation, so this part's not allowed to move, so it's being pushed from this side, and the anchoring of it is going to counteract that force. That's just Newton laws at work there. As we talked about in the last damage analysis video, I talked a lot about engineering specifications and standards, and rebar is no different. It has standards to adhere to. So the material property, or the rating that the material
I'm from Tennessee. I'm a Tennessee kind of southerner.
is
A mountain woman.
able to survive is something that's very important, obviously. According to the spec for this rebar, it needs to be able to meet a yield stress, so the stress that the material is able to withstand without permanently deforming at 60,000 psi. And then there's an ultimate strength, which is the strength of fracturing.
Oh
at
yeah, cheers guys.
90,000
I didn't cheers
PSI.
you this one. Cheers. Whatever you're drinking.
So what that means in the grand scheme of things, if we
Go
have
balls.
a stress versus strain graph, so strain is the amount of deflection that takes place, and stress is the internal.
I love that this is really laid out in the most basic way, because clearly this is not my strong suit, but I really love that he lays it out in a way that anybody can understand, and I don't know, I really enjoy that. I appreciate it.
Pressures that are subjected to the part when you're applying forces on them. With steel, you're gonna have,
It is in depth, right? It's
kind
good.
of like a curve like this almost.
We're learning,
So
everybody.
you have your initial
Chris, thank you so much for the $5. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
yield stress, which is your sigma y, and then you have an ultimate strength, which is higher up, which is your ultimate stress. When you reach your yield stress, the part is no longer able to deform back to its original shape. So if you achieve stresses anywhere in this region, that is called elastic. So think of like a rubber band. You stretch it and it goes
Interesting.
back to its original shape. So that's the elastic region. And then after that, over here is your plastic region. So anything past the elastic and into the plastic, the part is never going.
He's a nerd. I like that. We love nerds here. If y'all haven't Y'all are here because you are also nerds. Weather nerds or engineering nerds or whatever. You guys are all also nerds. Am I a cute nerd? Thank you. Johnny. You double down on the edibles and hope they kick in before impact occurs. Oh no, yeah, you gotta find a good spot to be outside of a mobile home that's not safe. You gotta get a better place to shelter.
Going to return to its original length. So say if you're pulling on it, for example, right? You know, you're pulling on it in these two directions. You're tensely loading the bar, and you exceed the yield strength. Say if it had an original length of this long, you know, after you exceed that yield, say you end up over here on the strain side of the equation, you might return somewhere over here because you're never going to be able to get fully back, and it's going to end up being a length like that. So like
We're
maybe
a bunch of
little bit
weirdos,
less.
everybody.
So strain, like
That's
I
why
said,
we're here.
is your change in length basically versus the stress that's on it. So this is the relationship between the two, and that's how we get our ultimate and yield stresses. Now, it's important to note that this is how the material behaves in the axial direction. We're looking at shear, which is a little bit different, but we can get our shear, which we use the letter tau for, those yield stresses and ultimate stresses from these values. There's an approximate value. It's about the, you know, your principal stress over, or I should say axial stress over the square root of 3. And that's the same for both here.
Is this just come off the top of your head? I am so lost.
So for the yield, that's going to be 34,600 psi.
Man. Some of y'all are really impressive.
And for the ultimate, that is going to be
You're a retired art and history
52,000.
professor? Man, that is really cool. For those who didn't hear, this is Angry Orchard.
As we saw in our image, we know that rebar completely sheared, so it
You could never go too deep in the science. We love it.
fractured, meaning we need to use the ultimate stress. So this is the stress that we're going to be testing our criteria to. Giving ourselves a little bit more space here, let's calculate how much force is needed. So stress is force over area. So in order to get our force, we need the area, since we already know what the stress is going to be. In this case, it's going to be
I feel smart being here too.
tau average. There's a little bit more nuance to it, but I'm using approximate values here for simplicity's sake. But it would yield us a very similar answer. So now that we know that, in order to get the force, we multiply A to the other side. A little bit of math and algebra here. It's not too crazy, I promise. Equals our force. The area, so that's where that diameter is going to come into play. So we know we have our 52,000 psi. And then we're going to multiply that by the area.
I'm so lost, but like I love it so much. I enjoy this a lot. I feel like I'm smart being here too. I feel like I'm learning a lot. Yeah, this kind of stuff it truly is fascinating. I do enjoy it.
Which, if we remember from our geometry class, the area of a circle is pi times the radius squared. So we know the diameter, so we're going to do the diameter, 0.5 inches over 2 squared. And this is going to yield us a result of our force at 10,210 pounds force. Roughly 10,000 pounds were subjected into that piece of rebar there in order to shear it like that.
10,000
Yeah, we're not talking in the axial direction, pulling on it. the way that rebar is intended, but rather shearing it right across the middle.
That's
Now, obviously,
really
there was probably
bonkers
a wall or something.
if you think about it. Like, really think about how bonkers that is. As long as it doesn't go into control theory, I'm chilling. Does everyone feel like a little flashback if you had to take whatever science courses you had to take, or maybe you took engineering courses? Is everyone feeling a little bit of a flashback right now?
was attached to this foundation that subjected the load to that. So there's probably a moment arm, so basically like a giant lever that is adding
That is an incredible amount of
exorbitant
force.
amounts of force into it. So it's not like there's just a point load being applied to the rebar that's shearing it in half. There's obviously a lot of moment that's being put into the system in order to shear off that and probably other sections of rebar. We just have the close-up of this picture here in this instance. So it's probably distributed throughout other sections
There's a quiz at the end, everybody. Pay attention. There's a quiz.
of the foundation. But I thought it was cool to show just how much force it takes to do that. And we're going to get into
is a
it a little
quiz.
bit more
Yes, there
later
is.
on, just how impressive some of the forces are, even distributed across an entire wall. With that first warm-up example out of the way, if you will, let's dive into some damage that occurred at the Parkersburg High School. With that said, I'm quickly going to point out that I am referencing the figure and some information that was found in Tim Marshall's official damage report on
Hell yeah.
the Parkersburg tornado. Tim Marshall, of course, being an expert in severe damage. He's a professional engineer and meteorologist as well. So he is an incredible resource when it comes to tornado damage analysis.
The only thing I can ever teach is maybe, anything to do with English or rhetoric. That's all. But English teachers are always cool, The English teachers are always a little off, but in a good way, I feel like. I guess that would be me.
So I'm going to be referencing something that
It's
he
not
found
multiple choice,
in his
Larry.
report that occurred at the Parkersburg High School, but I'm going to go into a little bit more depth to explain why the failure occurred. Looking at this figure, we can see that it's
Holy cow.
labeled windows and hinge line. This appears to be some sort of classroom environment in the back here based on the blackboard, but this entire wall looks to be pushed over and into this classroom environment, which during school sessions, that would be pretty terrifying if you're in a tornado warning and your entire school wall is collapsing around you. But there's a reason as to why this wall collapsed, and there's a reason why we shelter in the innermost areas of a building, including a well-built school like this one. So let's dive into it. Quickly sketching out the wall real quick. So we have this long
Fellow
section
English
of wall
major.
where we have classrooms, right? And in this wall, we had what looked to be almost floor-to-ceiling type windows distributed through the wall. So these are, like these giant windows, I guess you could say. We'll just put little, like, cartoon.
As someone who knows nothing about engineering, looking at that picture makes me wonder, I know he's probably about to explain, but it makes me wonder how this happens. This actually reminds me of a couple of pictures that I saw from the Tri-State tornado, where you had a neighborhood, and then you would have most of all of the homes that would be gone, and then there would be one or two homes that would just be left standing. There's also a picture, and you guys will see this when I publish the video. There's also a picture of a church, and the ends of the church are still there, but it looks like the twister just went right through the middle. And it always makes me wonder how that happens, if it's and this is me being ignorant, whether it's from the tornado having multiple vortices, or whether it's just structurally not as sound in the middle. But I think it's really interesting to see pictures like this, where you have a portion of the building that looks a lot less damaged, and then you just have the entire middle portion that's just completely destroyed. Very interesting.
Coming into your classrooms. But in terms of construction, when you have a bunch of wind loading taking place across your wall, and exorbitant amounts of it, especially in the case of a tornado, there's an issue when it comes to these breaks in the wall. what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a giant cross section through this wall. So this is kind of a little indicator for the view that I'm kind of slicing through. I'm going to draw this straight up and down. Something like that. Okay, so we have, you know, a brick wall with interruptions of windows, right? You have your windows, brick wall, windows, right? Something along the lines of that, and then brick wall continued. So what this means is that if we have a distributed load across all this, so just assuming that there is a uniform distributed load from the wind pushing on this wall, what does that mean at the areas where there's a difference between wall and glass? So obviously the walls and glass have different material properties. And what we can do here is sketch out these lines, these discontinuities, we can call them, because they are sharp transitions. Whenever you have a sharp transition in a material, that is...
Oh yeah, by the way, thanks for mentioning that. If you guys haven't watched 20... I'm going to pull this up really quick just so you guys can see. 20 Minutes in May. This is the best presentation on the Joplin event from an emergency management perspective. And this guy, I forget his name. Keith Stammer. This is an incredible presentation. If you guys are really into the Joplin event, it's an hour and 40 minutes, but I promise you are not going to be bored. This is the best breakdown of the event, I mean, objectively, that you can find out there. So, honestly, incredible. If you guys haven't seen it, it's called 20 Minutes in May. You can find it. It's the first thing that pops up on YouTube. Just throwing it out there.
Is called a discontinuity, and this is going to play into my big example that I'm going to talk about later in this video, so stay tuned. In terms of materials, discontinuities are not a good thing. If we're looking at, say, this calculator, for example, notice that a lot of areas that could have very sharp corners don't actually exist. Many times they're kind of smoothed over. These are called fillets. And this allows a gradual transition of surfaces. These gradual transitions are important because discontinuities, anything like sharp corners or areas where you don't have a nice flowing continuous surface, are a good area for stresses to build up. We're going to take a quick plot through here. So we're going to look at our old friend stresses here, represented by sigma, and due to these discontinuities...
Am I buzzed on the cider? A little, but that's okay. Right? That's okay.
You know, if this is, you know, increasing stress on this side, right? Over here at the end, where we have our distributed load, it's the initial start of it. There's not much, but the more we go, the more stress we're going to get. And then eventually we're going to get to this wall. And then we have a sharp transition between the brick wall, which has one material property, and this glass, which has a different material property. So depending on how it behaves, it might go down like this and then grow, or it might go up like this and grow. But what's important to note is that there is a sharp jump in stresses.
Does he have a video on Tuscaloosa F4? I don't, to my knowledge, no, but I think he's really just kind of getting started in like these type of videos. So I'm sure maybe eventually probably would.
So it might do something like that. And then we're going back to brick, so it might jump back down and then compound again with the distributed load. So either way, there are these sharp breaks that are occurring in the stresses. And this is where we're going to get really bad stress concentrations and where we're going to see failures in certain mechanical things. One of the most famous examples of critical stress concentration failures in mechanical engineering history is if we go back to the late 1940s and take a look at the de Havilland Comet. The de Havilland Comet was a marvelous piece of engineering, and it allowed for planes to reach new heights, new speeds that hadn't been seen before in commercial aviation. However, pushing these new...
You wonder how those Home Depot lawsuits turn out? I am really fascinated in the lawsuits from tornado events. I'm very curious about that as well. The reason I haven't covered Mayfield yet is because there are multiple lawsuits that are still ongoing that I actually am kind of waiting to... I mean, they're either going to settle or something's going to happen. So one of the reasons... actually really the main reason I haven't is because of that. I sort of want to wait for the dust to settle on that a little bit because I'm genuinely really curious how that's going to play out, especially because there were a lot of instances, you guys know, Amazon, there were several people who lost their lives there. The driver, I believe more than one driver, and then the candle factory as well. There's a lot of litigation going on for that area or for that business as well. So I really want to wait and see how those play out. And then I feel like once that's somewhat finished, I can really give a really in-depth post-tornado sort of discussion that includes the lawsuits because I do find them interesting. Yeah, it's the big box construction that, I mean, most of you guys have seen the Joplin stuff with I mean, these are like one of the worst places you can be with being in a tornado, these big box stores that are just so dangerous. Oh, not this one. Oops.
Heights with this aircraft led a critical flaw to be exploited in the aircraft, which caused a number of crashes and ultimately the de Havilland Comet having to be grounded for several months until the issue was figured out. The planes were crashing and explosively decompressing at high altitudes because the windows on the airplanes were square. They had rectangular windows with sharp corners on the end. The pressurized body of the aircraft was obviously pushing out on the very thin atmosphere at the altitudes that the airplane was flying at, and the sharp corners of the windows allowed stress to build up in those windows and then eventually caused catastrophic failures at 40,000 feet, costing all lives aboard the aircraft. Eventually, the de Havilland Comet went back into service with round windows in order to get away from the stress discontinuities that were taking place in the material. Jumping back into the school here in Parkersburg, let's take a quick look at where the failures occurred. Looking back at this wind-loaded wall of the Parkersburg High School, we can see those sharp transitions between window and brick wall. And it's ultimately between a brick wall and a window where the failure took place. So down here we can see those floor-to-ceiling windows.
Wow, and I guess it just takes one smaller structural failure to basically blow out the whole middle portion, is what it sounds like. I mean, that's, wow, holy cow.
But at these two locations, somewhere in the middle of the wall where the stresses were being built up highest from that distributed load being dispersed across that wall, the most force is going to be on the middle of that wall. And it found two weak points where there were stress discontinuities that allowed the wall to fail and then ultimately fall over that hinge line. So when we look at tornado sheltering practices, there's a reason why we go to the most interior parts of a school. Exterior walls have stuff like windows that have these different areas and weak points that allow exterior walls to fail, whereas internal to buildings, you have more uniform wall structures, and especially in those inner hallways where there is going to be large stretches of continuous material that allow people sheltering to hunker down in compared to those exterior facing walls. Now that we've learned a little bit about stresses in materials as well as hinge lines and stress discontinuity.
I remember, I think this was the last June 1st video that was done, but it talked about, gosh, what event was it? Where Was it this one? I think so, where someone was actually inside of a tornado shelter, and the tornado shelter failed, and they lost their life in the tornado shelter. It's honestly terrifying. I mean, I know that's such a small chance of that happening, but I mean, still. Yeah, I'm I'm learning. That's why I really like these videos. I know nothing about engineering, so it's fascinating for me to learn this kind of stuff. Don't forget about the extreme low pressure on the outside of the building. Sure. Would it really matter if a tornado can flip a train car? They're essentially boxes without windows. Well, I just hope if any of us experience a tornado, we're going to be in a relatively safe place. I mean, and then the statistical likelihood of being in a tornado that's an EF4 or EF5 is way under 1%. So, I mean, most people never have to worry about that kind of thing, but it's always better to be prepared than not. That's right. I'm sorry. Yeah, the shelter was not built to the right standards. And also just such a freak thing to happen, you know. Particularly the door. Yeah. How tragic that is too.
Discontinuities. Let's take a look at an EF5 damage indicator from the Parkersburg tornado. This here was a home that was constructed in 2008. So this home was not even a year old at the time of the tornado.
Wow, holy cow.
From first glance, we can see that the home is completely swept away, but I want to pay attention to what's happening over on the left side of the frame. Thankfully for us, we have a close-up picture that we can look at. Here we can see a brick wall that has failed and started to cave in from the wind loading that was happening very close to the ground. Unlike the CMU foundation that we saw earlier.
Sorry, I keep interrupting, but in a note of tornado shelters, there's a disturbing number from what I understand, and feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, but from what I understand, there's a pretty disturbing number of people who have died in tornado shelters from, you know, the older, or cellars, I should say, cellars, the older tornado shelters that are sort of underground from flooding. The amount of people that have drowned in those is really disturbing.
This house's foundation is constructed from solid concrete blocks, which is significantly stronger than CMU foundations. Though it may not seem overly impressive at first, to me, this is one of the most fascinating damage indicators from this event. And the reason why is because this wall is extremely low to the ground and not that big in surface area. What I mean by the surface area is the area that's exposed to the wind, acting as that lever that we were talking about earlier, pushing on the wall. In the school's case, for example, that was a huge wall that so much wind was able to push on in order to push that wall over. In this case, this wall doesn't appear to be any more than 3 feet tall, and yet it has failed and started to cave in.
You knew some people that were in the 2013 Moore tornado that were up to their neck in water. Holy cow. See, that's terrifying. Imagine living through a tornado event in a cellar or storm shelter and you're underground or whatever, and then it starts to flood. I mean, that is horrifying.
So let's try to estimate the wind speeds that it would take to cause this concrete block wall to fail. In order to do this, we're going to do what is called a combined loading analysis.
2011
Combined
Reno.
loading is where we take a finite element on that wall and analyze all of the forces going into it to try to understand the principal and shear stresses that are being subjected to that wall. Starting with what's called a free body diagram, we're going to map out all of our forces on this and then try to figure out which ones are most potent and combine them in order to get a best sense of what is being subjected to the wall. Of course, the main load that's going to be taking place on this wall is the distributed load from the wind force. This force from the wind is going to be distributed across the entire wall, so it is important that we get a sense of the geometry of the wall. We didn't have an image to go off of to give us the depth of the wall from the perspective of the picture that we were given, so we're going to estimate that the wall is 20 feet long. And
that's a good question. Does concrete typically fail in shear? I don't know. That's a great
30
question.
some odd inches tall in order to calculate the platform area of the wall that our load is distributed through. Another important force to consider is the weight of the wall. This concrete wall is obviously going to be pretty heavy, so it's going to be resisting to some degree the force that's being pushed into it, though not too much. It appears that the moment arm is likely going to be the most potent factor in the failure of this wall. A moment, once again, is basically if you think of the wall as a lever. The further out on a lever you go, the more advantage you have to lifting or compromising a force on the other end. So thinking of the wall as a lever, that is the moment about the bottom of the wall. It's also important to note that at our stress element, we might also have some shear coming into play. So as we talked about earlier, shear is not an axial force through the wall, but rather what's going to be separating the wall across this direction of travel from the floor.
Hello, the storm chasing guy. Concrete likes compression, shear being both compression and tension. Interesting. Concrete likes to be compressed.
Relative to the wall. The one thing to note about concrete is that it's very good in compression. So when there's a lot of weight on an object, that's why they're so frequently used for foundations.
Man, y'all are smart. I didn't know
but they're
all that.
not good in tension. That's why there's oftentimes rebar to try to resist some of the tensile forces that exist in foundations. In this case, it appears that the mortar was the point of failure of the wall, so we're going to use the tensile strength of mortar in our analysis, which comes out to 150 psi. To find the force due to the weight, we take the material properties of concrete and assume that this wall is entirely made of concrete of a uniform density. Though this is likely not the case, this is what we have to do for our approximation. We take the density of the concrete as well as the volume of the wall, so taking the length, width, and height of the wall in order to multiply those two values together in order to give us a mass of the wall. The mass times the acceleration due to gravity will give us the weight of the wall. In this instance, we estimate the wall's weight to be just over 4,000 pounds force. Considering the shear that's occurring, our stress element we have located at the outer exterior of the wall. This is important because shear acts more in the center of the object. So on either wall, the internal and external walls, the shear is going to be 0. Fortunately for us, shear being 0 simplifies things greatly in terms of calculating the final stress. Finally, we have to calculate out the moment due to wind loading.
Interesting.
Finally, let's analyze the moment due to the wind loading, the thing that we most care about, obviously. Moments are calculated by a force times a distance. In this case, because we have a distributed load across the wall...
Was the high school EF for damage? I don't know. I'm curious. It's very interesting.
We can find the center and multiply the magnitude of that distributed load. So obviously the load is distributed across a certain length. So if we multiply the magnitude of the distributed load times the length, it gives us one big resultant vector for the force acting on the wall that's going to be acting on the center of the object. So that gives us both the length of the moment arm that's pushing on the wall as well as the magnitude of the force.
I want this guy to be my general contractor when I build a house. Yeah. We want Ethan to be our contractor. Ethan needs to build, to make a business or a tornado shelter business. And we'll all get tornado shelters because we trust Ethan. There were multiple DIs from the school. Oh, okay. I see. EF2 to EF4. Okay, I see. Is that in Tim Marshall's report, I assume? Andy? Oh, Andy! We summoned you earlier by talking about you. Are you scaring the general masses with math on a Tuesday again? Andy! Everybody say hello to Andy!
Which, in turn,
Andy, I'm on my second Angry Orchard. And I'm happy you're here.
gives us the moment. We already know the failure criteria of the wall. Given the location of our little stress element that we are using, we know that because of the moment bending on the wall, that failure point is going to be in tension at that location.
Flavor, it's just the regular old schmegular green apple Angry Orchard. Nothing fancy. I do have one more beer. It's a German beer, and it's like a grapefruit beer, but I think 2 will be enough for me, or it's going to start getting weird in this live stream. Yeah, Andy, why don't you get a beer?
So we're going to
There's nothing exciting happening here in Georgia. Absolutely nothing. Can you please shout out my dad? His name is Ben Dover. Stop. Stop. I can't stand you. I'm not reading this chat anymore. Y'all are mean. Y'all are taking advantage of me drinking Angry Orchard on stream. I'm not doing this anymore. Y'all have lost privileges. I'm not drinking Angry Orchard on stream anymore.
using the ultimate tensile strength of mortar. Stress due to a bending moment can be calculated using the moment times the distance to the neutral axis, which isn't really an important term. For the context of a rectangle, the neutral axis is in the center of the rectangle, so that simplifies things for us greatly.
You got me good, I'm not gonna lie.
The multiplication of those terms is going to be divided by the area moment of inertia. In very simple terms, the area moment of inertia is going to take into account the shape of the object.
Hey everyone, Future Ethan here, the one that's editing this video currently, and I realized I made a couple mistakes in my math, so
You got some cool stuff on your walls. I guess I wouldn't expect any different. But
this next portion of the video is going to be a little jumpy, but I've reevaluated everything, so the graphics that you're going to see on the screen that actually spell out the math are correct, but because I was referencing actual values when recording the video, I'm going to have to kind of cut around those as those numbers are no longer relevant. Hope you don't mind. In engineering, you make math mistakes, right? So that's why you got to check your numbers. All right, back to it.
Taking a cross section through our wall, fortunately for us again, the wall being a rectangle helps us out greatly in our favor in order to calculate the area moment of inertia, so we can get that for our bending moment stress.
y'all are not getting me anymore. You're gonna have to wait till next time when I forget about this, and then you're gonna have to try again, and then it's probably gonna work again. Okay, but this time we're done. Okay.
Stress equation. Once again, the distance to the neutral axis, also simple because it's a rectangle, which helps us out greatly again. Lastly, for our bending moment stress equation, we need the force that's imparted on the wall. Throwing it back to last video, we're going to go back to our old friend the drag equation in order to calculate out the force that's being imparted by the wind on the wall. Quickly, due to the weight of the wall though, we have to take into account the compressive stress and then counteract that from the tensile stress that we're trying to find. This gives us the real tensile stress failure criteria. So now we know that and a little bit of algebra. Let's take the force equation.
And you're not too dumb to come up with jokes on the spot. You're just witty generally. And I think everybody knows that.
For drag, and then add that into our bending moment stress equation and rearrange things so we can solve for velocity. And ultimately find that the velocity subjected to this wall came out to Now,
Holy
obviously, there were a
cow.
lot of assumptions that were made, and the geometry of the wall and the uniformity is not something that we can guarantee, but it is well above the EF5 threshold at the end of the day,
Yeah.
making Parkersburg one of the most strongest tornadoes that we have seen in United States history.
Wow.
So, what are the lessons that can be learned by the Parkersburg EF5 tornado? If there's anything that some of the damage images show us, it's that even if you're in a basement, it's important to have head protection because you never know what could fall into your basement, especially in a tornado of the caliber that Parkersburg was. As pointed out by Tim Marshall, there were several homes that weren't adequately anchored, so even in EF2,
Such a bummer when you have a really, really intense tornado and it's just not well anchored. So you're not able to get, I guess, that accurate DODs or DIs because it's just, how will you know? Because that's what's frustrating about
level damage,
the EF scale.
homes were completely slid off of the foundation, exposing basement
Dustin, welcome to the Rope Club. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. And a welcome.
to tornadic winds. Another lesson to watch out for is walls that have discontinuities. So material changes, sharp corners, or changes in material of any kind, because those are locations that the wall could abruptly fail at, causing hinge line failures. And finally, as we saw with our last example, homes that have basements that are exposed to the open.
It's the Rope Club, Andy. Shut up. It came from my brain. Don't laugh at me. I made 3 membership tiers, and in my head the best thing I could think of was the Rope Club, and in hindsight, does it sound funny? Yeah, but I think I'm going to stick with it cuz I like it.
Obviously, basements are the best place to be in the case of a tornado, but if there's an exposed foundation on either side of your house, make sure you're sheltering in an area that's completely covered with ground. As we saw, a powerful enough tornado can even push over basement walls. Thank you so much for tuning in to this installment of the Damage Analysis series here on the June 1st YouTube channel. I hope you learned.
Honestly, I really, if you guys weren't here before, I'm just going to say it one more time. June 1st videos are such a unique perspective. I mean, obviously there are engineers in the space, but nobody's making content, and certainly nobody's making content of this level. So I really enjoyed this last one too that was just uploaded 2 weeks ago. So check it out if you enjoyed it. June 1st. I'm going to promote it forever. So ropes are kinky. I'm glad you guys are having a good time in the chat. What's supposed to happen with the new EF scale? That's a great question. I have no clue. I don't know if anybody, I guess if anybody knew anything, it might be Ethan, but I don't know a timeline on that. I don't know who would be working on that. I would think Tim Marshall, but I've not heard a single thing on a timeline or anything. So, yeah, y'all's guess is as good as mine. But yeah, this is really cool stuff. I love it. Also, if you weren't here a few minutes ago, I was just talking about if you were interested in the Joplin event, definitely go and check out the documentary called 20 Minutes in May. It's from the Johnson County Emergency Management Team. It's a presentation that was done. The Rope Club. Yeah, you guys can join the Rope Club if you are so inclined. How... Stop. How can you work for me? I don't know. You'd have to be really special, I guess. Yeah, probably a lot of people you haven't heard of. I'm sure Tim Marshall has to be on that team. If anybody, it has to be Tim Marshall. I don't know, Ethan, have you heard about it? He talked about it at AMS. That makes sense. You want to talk about something regarding radar data in the new scale? I haven't heard anything about the new scale. I'm not privy to any of that information. Okay, well, Ethan's going to be doing a new video about the EF scale, the next EF scale. So if you want to know anything about that, check out June 1st for sure. The new dangly pit scale. What are the tiers of the rope club? There's the... Oh, God, actually. There's the rope club. There is the stovepipe society, which is the mid tier. And then you have the wedge formation, which is the top tier. So you guys are more than welcome to check that out. It's on my channel if you are interested in that. Obviously, there's no obligation to that. Let's see. Yeah, I guess Tim Marshall talked about it at AMS not too long ago. I wonder, I don't know if they record those presentations at all, so I'll have to see if they do. I'm not sure. Yeah, Purple, there's going to be a new scale. I don't know what the timeline on that looks like, but yeah, Ethan says it's still several years away, so. Do you understand now, Andy? Yeah. I can't believe y'all got me with a bend over earlier. No, Star, you're not late. We might hang out for a little bit longer. If you guys want, we can watch Storm Stories. We can take a look at this 20 Minutes in May, the Joplin video or whatever. It's been an hour and a half, so whatever you guys want to do. There must be a lot of dads in here based on the humor. We love dad humor. They should include radar data in the assessments of the new scale. I don't know. I don't know. What do you guys think about that? Do I think the Mayfield, Kentucky tornado was poorly handled by the NWS? No, I would never question their judgment because I'm not an engineer, nor am I part of the NWS. So anything that the NWS publishes, I will typically always trust that that is in their professional judgment. And I'm never going to question it. The only times I've really questioned judgment has been the way the media handled the playing field event. That was something I talked about pretty in depth. I want to say that's one of the only ones I've ever really questioned. I didn't even really question Rochelle's rating, so I'm just not qualified to do that. Okay, we have 2 for 20 Minutes in May. 1 for Storm Stories, 20 Minutes in May. It's really good. I think you guys are going to like it. Do I storm chase? No. I think this year. If I storm chase, it would be this year, I think. Maybe for the new office, we'll get, blaze a little something. But yeah, I showed you guys earlier, but just very small. Little tiny space. You're not going to be able to see it very well. About to roast you if you don't chase with us. Andy, I'm sorry about that whole mess. It's been a really weird month for me, so we'll talk about it later, but yeah. I'm sure I'll end up coming out there. If there's anybody I trust my life with, it's Andy Hill. And that's it. Ethan says, if anything, Mayfield just highlighted the lack of construction standards being adhered to in home construction. That is a really, really, really good point. And I would love if you made a video about that too, by the way. That would be great. Okay, I'm going to put on 20 Minutes in May and I'm going to use the bathroom and then I'm going to come back. I would love to join the rope club. Hi, Rodolfo. How are you? I hope you're doing well. Do I work in a weather-related field? If you consider this work, then sure. All right, I'm gonna put this on for you guys and I'll be right back. How's that sound? Let me pause this. I was only 8 months, so I wouldn't recognize you. I don't know what that means, but I agree. Can I do some research on the 11/29/16 small tornado outbreak? Y'all want to hear something funny? That is actually the only time I've ever experienced a tornado was on that specific outbreak in my hometown in Athens, Tennessee. A EF2 went through my hometown. I was working night shift at the time, actually, and actually, let's look at it. I was working night shift at the time. And it went over at like 2 a.m. And I came out, when I came out of work the next day, it was like, everything was, the Piggly Wiggly was gone. So yeah, this little guy right here, EF2, took out the Piggly Wiggly. Sad day. You can't believe I fell for that bend over earlier? Yeah. I mean, I can believe it, but it is pretty funny, huh? All right, I'm going to put this on. I'll be right back.
Because of what was a radar-indicated tornado that was coming our way, and it actually turned and did not quite brush the city of Joplin. I was standing in the dispatch center when that happened, had a lady call 911 and complain because we had scared her to death by turning on the sirens, and it was clear outside, and she couldn't see any reason to do it. Then when we had the tornado actually show up and we started hitting the sirens after that, people didn't complain quite so much. Has anybody seen an actual tornado? Okay, very good. I'm just going to play part of this just to give a local reaction. I won't play the whole thing. This is from one of the storm chasers. That'd be fine.
Pick it up, I can't film! I'm talking, film!
I got it. We had a lot of people that did not recognize this as a tornado because it was almost entirely rain wrapped. They were looking for the traditional television shot, and many people thought that this was just a rain shaft of some sort. These guys, obviously not.
Hold on, let me catch up with chat here. I feel that we need a commitment from Carly to meet up for a beer for the patrons. You're in Sweden. Yeah, I mean, if you guys ever want to meet up, that's cool. Let's do it. If a town in the south loses its Piggly Wiggly, the town might as well just... Yeah, the town's done. We're done. The Piggly Wiggly's gone. It's done. I'm pretty sure they rebuilt it. I mean, clearly I moved away after that, but it is pretty funny that nobody died. Nobody was really injured either. So I say that it's funny because there were no fatalities. But yeah, the Piggly Wiggly was gone. Your mother-in-law's from Mayfield. Asked her brother, who's still there, if you got the flu shot. He said no. Okay.
Storm spotters get kind of excited whenever they do that sort of thing. This is the map of the city. This is a map.
Joplin is still, it doesn't matter how many times I read about the Joplin event, it blows my mind every single time. The amount of fatalities that came from the Joplin event is so unreal for a singular tornado. I think it's 158. For a modern event in 2011, that is unreal. There's a great study on mortality from Joplin. I've talked about this many times. I've done a live stream on it. I've talked about it in the Joplin video, but the amount of stimuli that people needed to shelter, there's a specific example in the study done by the National Weather Service, and it's like, one example was a man needed 8 stimuli to shelter, which included like the first and second tornado sirens that went off in Joplin, him seeing the weather change, a physical change to your environment, hearing about it on TV, going to a restaurant and the restaurant doors were closed. I mean, there was an unreal number of stimuli that this person specifically needed before actually sheltering. And I mean, clearly this isn't an isolated incident. This happens a lot of different times, but I mean, Joplin is just such a strange event through and through.
Of the destruction that was there, this is left to right, west to east. You can see on the far left side, if I may use this one over here, that the storm actually started off over on the far west side over here and then moved this direction. Were you okay? Okay, all right. We had 2 storms combine over on this side, and they began to spool up and form an actual funnel. Meteorologists who have looked at the radar data told me that from the time that these 2 storms combined to when they actually formed a funnel was less than 1.
Yeah, Coach Media, that's what's so horrific about Joplin is that we're talking about a singular, I mean, okay, so let's say 324 or 5 people from the 2011 super outbreak, but then you've got one singular tornado in Joplin that took 158 lives. I mean, that's unreal.
1 minute. So there was really little or no warning time on this particular thing. You saw it start to spool up here as it comes across. You can see it started to widen. This is where the Joplin High School, Franklin Technical Center, where this was the main area of destruction. There's evidence on the ground that we had multiple vortices rotating around the main tornado as it came out. My EOC is a little farther north. I ran out the back door and could look and see as it passed by over here. It was your television traditional wedge kind of idea, just a giant black wedge. It moved west to east, took about 20 minutes to go across here, made a right-hand turn here, and then went for several miles down into Newton County, down toward Diamond, Missouri, picked up, set back down again, and ran again. Total on the ground time was about 22 miles. This is called the Joplin tornado, because it happened here. As you may well know, 1,200 tornadoes a year, plus or minus, in the United States. Less than 0.5% are EF5s. Of all the EF5s, we've had 3 residential areas that have been whacked.
You know, Ian, that's an interesting point. Even if there was a tornado emergency issued for Joplin, do y'all think that would have really made much of a difference? I mean, how much of a difference would a tornado emergency versus just a second tornado warning would have done? I don't know that people would have had time to do anything different, you know? And then you're talking about the general public, describing what the difference in a regular tornado warning is versus a tornado emergency. It's very interesting to think about how that might have played out, but I don't know that it would have made too much of a difference.
By this. Oklahoma City on a continuing basis, Greensburg, Kansas, and Joplin, Missouri. The other thing that's unique about this is a lack of a long track. In Mother's Day 2008, we had a tornado come across Oklahoma, take out Pitcher, Oklahoma, cross the border into Missouri in the Newton County, just south of us, and then run 30 miles on the ground across Newton County.
Yeah, I don't think it would have made much of a difference. True, though, Casey, that's a good point. Even if it had saved one person, it would have mattered. I agree. Yeah, the general public, I mean, if you guys ask your aunts and uncles or your cousins or whatever, you know, the difference between a tornado. This went through the entirety of a portion of Joplin, so even if people had gotten a tornado emergency and they thought, well, oh shit, this is bad, how much time would they've realistically had to do anything different, you know?
$6.5 million worth of damage down there, crossed at 43 in Iris and killed some 14 people in that location, and which they never saw that particular storm coming. But it was on the ground for a long time.
Oh,
This
you
one
live
was
in
not.
Joplin, Red Raptor?
So that was
Very
another
interesting.
thing about this particular situation.
Wow.
This red area, the blue lines are the basic destruction. We literally had cars that would be sitting here on the road. This side would have damage and this side would not. The color coding that you see in the middle, this is what was called the Expedited Debris Removal Area, the EDR. And what that is this is the area of worst damage. Normally on a Stafford Act signing off by the president for a disaster declaration, they go for a 75-25 split. Feds pay 75% of what they will allow. Local entities pay 25% and they split that up with the state or not, depending on what the local policy is. The feds came in on this and said, if you can get this particular area cleaned
It's incredible how many of you guys are like near or from Joplin.
out by August 6th, we'll go
Carly, you said in child-friendly word, I'm disgraced, unholy, and sinful.
90-10. And we said, yeah, we can do that. Now, the thing you need to understand is there's 3 million cubic yards worth of debris in there. Just to put that in proportion, the Twin Towers, 9/11, encompassed a little under 600,000 cubic yards. So this was about 5 times plus as much debris as what there was for the Twin Towers itself. Most, half of which was in this particular area, which we...
Sorry, keep pausing. I just have a lot to say. Clutch Media, that's a great point. Maybe not a big difference in a tornado emergency, but the thing with Joplin is that the tornado did form quite a ways west of Joplin, and part of the reason, and I'm not speaking from my opinion, I'm speaking from a National Weather Service report, part of the reason why people were confused is because the tornado warning for Joplin was so early. It was like 15 minutes before the storm had approached the city limits of Joplin that people were genuinely confused by the fact that there was a tornado warning, and they thought it was, a lot of the witnesses said they thought it was a test, or they just thought it was a false alarm. So part of the problem actually was that there were 2 separate tornado warnings for Joplin, the first one being several minutes before the supercell actually approached the city. So I'll find the link to the study if you guys are really interested in it, but I seriously, if you're interested in the Joplin event, recommend you reading through that, because it talks a lot about the social science, and a lot of the people who were interviewed were actually confused by the fact that there was 2 tornado sirens, and they thought that it was a false alarm because it sounded 15 minutes before, you know, it approached the city, and people couldn't see a tornado, so they just assumed that everything was fine, which is inherently, you know, a problem.
We got cleaned out. We were, our then fire chief, Mitch Randalls, got up in a helicopter, flew that night and called out what he thought it looked like the area of destruction was by streets. And when we went ahead and got this map, it was almost exact overlay. This was provided to us by the United States Geological Service. They took a satellite, zoomed in on Joplin, looked at each individual lot that's there, and then rated them, color-coded them, according to greatest damage down to least damage. So that helped a lot in trying to figure out where we need to be and how that's going. I like to talk to my weather spotters who are also, what's the word I'm looking for here? Theorists, conspiracy theorists. That old saw about the feds being able to take a satellite and read your license plate? Yeah. I walked in and said, can we have a copy of that? And they said, no. We'll be happy to print it out for you, but you don't get an electronic copy of it. I said, okay. So try and remember that. This has also been a useful map. I've had several cities that have called and
Oh yeah, Ethan, no problem. It's cool that you were even here in the first place, so I really appreciate it. Everybody, if you haven't subscribed to June 1st, who's in the chat right now, go check that out. It was the video we watched earlier. Really great engineering breakdown of meteorological events, tornado events. So yeah, thanks for hanging out. I really appreciate it. But yeah, Joplin is such a freak event too. It's like such a 1 in a million event. I mean, Casey, I certainly don't blame the National Weather Service either. They were very much on top of this supercell, so it's unfortunately just one of those instances where you kind of know there's going to be fatalities no matter what you do. It's such a violent storm. The National Weather Service, most of the time is always really on top of it, and they were certainly with Joplin as well. Just an incredibly violent storm.
asked for overlays of this, and they've taken that and laid it over their particular city and said, this is what happened in Joplin. What happens if
The fungal outbreak. Yes, Morgan, the fungal outbreak from Joplin. I mean, I already talked about this in the video, but how bonkers is that? How bonkers. Yeah. I can't imagine living through something like Joplin, having that kind of trauma and PTSD, and then on top of that, possibly having a bacteria infection like that. I mean, I can't imagine.
it happens to go through here. For us, this was the lower third of the town in a very much older section that was there. Joplin is an old mining town. Most of the lead that was used in World War I came from the four-state area where we are. We still have a lot of flooded mines.
Samantha is here. Hi, Samantha. An expert in the chat. Oh, you actually wrote a paper on it. Wow. It's wild that much of what protects us from these outbreaks is just walls. What a terrifying thought. There's actually some really interesting reports about fungus and just infections generally after the tri-state tornado, so I'm pretty excited to share that with you guys. I mean, clearly a tornado event from 1925 is, you're relying on solely, writing and stuff, historical accounts, but really interesting stuff. And I hope to have that out in the next week. We'll see. The actual EF4 and above portion of the tornado is pretty small. Even the downtown is ancient. I'd have to look at a map specifically. I mean, I think that's true for a lot of these EF4, EF5 violent tornadoes. It's usually a pretty smaller area, but just the amount of fatalities that came from Joplin is what makes it so horrifying.
And chat piles to deal with. And so a lot of those houses that we had in that area were from that era. Some of them were 75 plus years old. We had city blocks that had 12, 14 plus houses on one city block, little things. When they were knocked over and we went out and looked at them, it was obvious that some of them started off with dirt floors. Not all that way. There were some really nice houses out there as well. The electrical system was antiquated. The water system was somewhat antiquated. It had all been tied onto. Not now. It's all been cleared out. This is some,
That is
I have a whole
unreal.
series of photographs on this, and I've got a lot more than just what these show. And I won't try and bore you with some of these, but I just want to make some points about it. One thing is fires. We fought a lot of fires that day. Joplin at this point had no tankers. Everything is off of hydrants when you don't have any water pressure. The old saying is, how
EF2 or EF3 if it hit an open field. Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's the thing with El Reno too, is El Reno is only an EF3, but it's, measured as one of the strongest tornadoes ever recorded. Yeah, the Pizza Hut story is always going to be insane from Joplin. I think if I could ever recommend anybody to watch anything from a tornado event, it's from the one of the survivors from the Pizza Hut in Joplin, and he did an interview 10 years later. He's an amputee now and has really extreme PTSD, and I talked about it in the Joplin video, but such a powerful interview, and he still says that he pulls out wood splinters out of his skin, 10 years later. And you can just see written all over this poor guy's face that he is just so traumatized. He says anytime there's a storm, he just like cries and goes into a ball.
You understand,
can you
EF0s
imagine?
through EF5s on the tornadoes, least wind 65 miles an hour through an EF5 of 200 plus mile an hour. Ours was estimated to be at 205 miles an hour. One university did some testing, and that's the speed at which you can lift up a tire stop on a
Yeah, he does look
pavement
like
parking
a
lot
war vet,
and
seriously.
lift it up out
It's
of the
that
ground.
bad.
And we lost several of those at the Joplin High School. So they said it's at least 205 miles an hour. I participated in the National Weather Service assessment of the Moore, Oklahoma tornado from 2013. Went down and spent a week with them, and we looked around and looked at the processes of the Weather Service. Had a chance to speak to some people about the EF scale.
I mean, it's a really good point, Red Raptor. I mean, so let's say 80% of the damage was from 140 miles per hour or less. Poor construction inevitably leads to a ton of tornado fatalities annually, 100%. But then also we do have to consider that Joplin was a really freak violent storm too. One that doesn't happen very often. So I think it's unfortunately just a really tragic combination of poor construction standards and lack of sheltering, especially with the reports done by the National Weather Service, the amount of people who didn't really get into shelter until the last second, poor construction, and the fact that it was a freak event. Sadly. There's been some wicked strong tornadoes that never hit anything, for sure. For sure. Didn't he lose his arm to the fungus? I know he lost a leg. I don't think an arm. I mean, there certainly could have been another person. Did you talk about Greenbrier? No. No.
For those of you that deal with the EF scale, a couple little things on the side, little dirty secrets that may go on here. Number one, at that time at least, no one's in charge of the EF scale. It's all volunteer. Those people that kind of look after it. And number two, we don't really know what that means. All we really know is what broke on the ground, but we don't really know what those wind speeds are in the air. We estimate 205 miles an hour on the ground there, but I have no idea what it was 10 meters up or 30 meters up. And we don't really have the technology to be able to figure out what those wind speeds are. A tornado is a violently rotating column of air. It's not a violently rotating column of steel. So it varies all up and down along the way. And so we just kind of have to watch it and work with what we have. We had a lot of fires. The other thing I was going to talk about was water. On an EF4, the saying is everything's...
Andre, I did say that Kansas City was the capital, and let me tell you how fast people corrected me. That is so funny. I'm glad people came after me for that because I deserved it. Yeah. I think that was the first video I got like my first hate comment too. Someone told me that I was disrespectful for wearing pink, I think, in that video. And then they also said I talk too much. It's a good video. F6 is considered the impossible tornado. Certainly, by Dr. Ted Fujita. Larry, I always wonder about that fungus. I've not heard of a single event outside of Joplin that it's happened in. I mean, undoubtedly before recorded tornado history, I'm sure it's happened, but what a freak event. Oh, some of the survivors of the crash of Eastern Flight 401 had fungal gangrene. Very interesting. I also am a pretty big fan of aviation documentaries as well, like aviation crashes. I think those are really interesting. I'm sure some of you guys are as well. How dare you wear such a cheerful color while reporting this? I know, I had worn pink and someone was really upset about that. I think it's good to get a hate comment every once in a while. Why not?
Destroyed on an EF5, everything's gone. Basically, this was what we called a smoother. It just smoothed houses off the foundation, shoved them in the streets up against other
Hello,
buildings.
Megashawn.
When it did
Hope
that,
you're doing
it
well.
took the water stubs, it took the gas stubs, it took the electrical connections that were with it. The only way the water company could help with keep up their water pressure for the rest of the city was turn off the valves for that entire section. Then over the next several weeks, they had to go around individually to each house, dig out the water main that was there and turn the water off. Ditto the gas, electric, a similar type situation that they had to go through. So we did a lot of tanker operations. Fortunately, those of you that are in police, fire, ambulance,
Tenerife
health,
vaccinate,
public
yeah,
works, you
for
all
sure.
know you have agreements with surrounding agencies to come in and help, and they were a big help to us in doing this. This doesn't mean anything to you. This is 26th Street, St. John's Hospital.
Mikey, thank you for the good laugh. Thank you for trolling me. I do appreciate a good troll. And you might be able to get me next time. Who knows? I hope you have a good rest of your night, too.
Little would have been on the left. There was a park on the right.
I mean, this image is just... Wow. We have an expert in the chat. It's Samantha. It is really fascinating. The Funko Pop is Geralt of Rivia. It's the only one I have, but it's the only one I need, truly.
It's pretty easy to tell where the disaster went through. Even in Joplin today, there's no trees. Joplin's totally covered in trees. We had a Japanese film crew come out of California for filming back in Tokyo. We took them up on top of City
Joplin
Hall.
did
It's
come
about
back
5
stronger than
floors
ever.
up,
Absolutely. I've
and
never seen
showed them
anyone
back
recover
to the
like
south,
Joplin.
And they said, "Where, please, is the destruction?" And we said, "Any place there are no trees." And then you could clearly see the path that happened here. The thing I wanted to say is this is the next morning. That night, this road was entirely covered with trees. That entire area was covered with trees. We held the Council of War on Sunday evening. Our city manager, Mark Rohr, at that time, looked up, and I remember him saying, "Job one is to clear the streets." Looked at Public Works. "Why are you still standing here? Job one is to clear the streets." We were doing a presentation on this one time down in Texas. Somebody said, "So how did you do all the search?"
Uncle T, love you too. Have a good night. Thank you for coming. I'm going to go get one more beer, y'all.
and rescue if we're in the streets, and so you could do the search and rescue for everybody else. Job one was clear the streets. Probably not the answer everybody wants to hear, but sometimes you have to do what you have to do. Another interesting thing, if you set up areas where we're going to gather, if we have a disaster on this part of town, we can go to the Lowe's parking lot. If we have a disaster over here, we can go to the Walmart parking lot or whatever and set up. When they're all covered in 10 to 12 feet worth of debris for 6 miles long and 3/4 of a mile wide, there's no parking lots to get into. So police, fire, and ambulance figured out very quickly, all they needed to do was pull up to the scene and turn on their lights. And people literally came out of the woodwork. And they would walk over and say, "I'm okay, but somebody got somebody wounded. There's a dead person over here. Can you help us get?" And we started calling in and trying to do some
Yeah, Demi, thank you for pointing that out. I know it's really morbid in my videos, the fact that I talk about injury so much, and I know it's not the most pleasant thing to talk about, but I totally agree. I think anytime that tornado events are typically covered, it's very generalized, and it's always a numbers game of, 12 fatalities and 200 injuries. But I mean, when you talk about injuries, seriously, I talk about this all the time, but you're talking about lifelong injuries. You're talking about torn ligaments and broken bones or amputations. And these are things that really change people's lives, keep them from working, or, you know, I mean, I really genuinely don't think they're talked about enough. And I don't think that PTSD and mental traumas are talked about enough in tornado events as well. So I'm sure you guys have noticed it's something I really try to focus in on with my events, because I do think it's really, really important to talk about. There's a ton of people who have storm anxiety and PTSD, and it just gets looked over a lot. Yeah, Eric, I totally agree. You would rather be killed than severely maimed. I'm telling y'all, the survivor interview from Joplin is just so horrible. This poor guy has been through 10 years of like intense PTSD, amputation, surgeries, still pulling wood out of his skin 10 years later. Morbid fascination's a great way to put it. Dave Freeman said the Greensburg tornado was the worst of his career. Another freak event for sure. I'm in some ways really not excited to talk about Mayfield, but I'm looking forward to talking about the mental health aspect of the Mayfield event, because there's actually a lot more awareness and a lot more services provided for mental health counseling for those after the Mayfield event. And people in 2021, in a lot of ways, were a lot more open to receiving counseling and therapies, and just more accepting of the fact that they likely did have some kind of post-traumatic stress associated with the Mayfield tornado. I remember reading a ton of articles about it. So in some ways, I am really excited to sort of talk about it when the dust settles, because I think there's a lot of important takeaways, particularly with PTSDs and traumas and mental health with severe weather, specifically tied to the Mayfield event. Because a lot of people talk about the damage, right? I think that's the most fascinating part of the Mayfield event, whether or not it should have been given an EF5 rating. I mean, there's a lot of polarizing points to the Mayfield tornado, but honestly, I've yet to hear people really talk about the implications of the mental health aspect of the Kentucky tornado. So I do look forward to having that discussion. It jumped your street, the Kentucky tornado? Mercy of the Sky? Is that on YouTube, Morgan? I'd be really interested to watch that. I'm gonna look that up for later. Blaze is good, Red Raptor. Thanks for asking. He's somewhere. I think he's in the room or something. December 1917 Halifax explosion. There's ways to work through PTSD, but every decent option seems to cost an arm and a leg, or is illegal in 48 states. It's really sad, but that's true. And I think there's still a lot of, it's much better in 2023, I think, but there's still, unfortunately, a lot of stigma around getting counseling, especially for the older generation, for things like PTSD. And another thing too is I think it's very stigmatized with severe weather. Like PTSD from war to a lot of people is one thing, but then when you want to talk about storm anxiety or PTSD from something like a tornado event, I think some older generation folks are a little bit more reluctant to accept that they might have PTSD from something like severe weather, but it certainly happens. I'm glad you talk about injuries. Sometimes fear of lifelong suffering actually motivates people to take precautions more than the threat of death. I agree. You started volunteering at the Humane Society so you can get to pet cats in your free time. That's very sweet of you. What do I think of the train derailment up in Ohio? I think it's crazy. I don't know too much about it. I follow a couple people on Twitter who were close in the area, but I don't know enough about it. I just know that it's crazy. Melissa, speaking from personal experience, PTSD isn't exactly something you can work through. It's more of a learning to cope, how to handle the triggers. Thank you for saying that. I really like that you pointed that out. I've known a few people who have had pretty intense PTSD from being in the military, and I don't personally, of course, I can't personally relate, but I do like to try to bring awareness to it when I can. But I agree. I think it's probably something that you never really able to fully work through, just deal with. Is that Joshman in the chat? No. No way. It feels like with US healthcare too, everything just becomes way hard to try to, yeah. You have to jump through 20 different loops and holes and all kinds of different stuff just to get like the basic mental health help that you need. And if that's really you, then that is very exciting, and I will drink to that.
Organization of what was going on. Power lines were down. The trees were totally stripped. The houses, the old.
Can you have a recap? We're just hanging out, and I'm showing you guys my new office. It's kind of a mess, but we're going to hang up all the pictures and stuff behind later for the next video. And yeah, this is just the Joplin video. We're looking at it together, hanging out.
The thing about the tornadoes, we advocate, interior room, multiple walls between you and the exterior. My new next door neighbor attested to that. Kathy and I live in a housing addition on the north side. We were not affected. And about 25
this is a
people
German
out
beer,
there,
by the way,
houses.
guys. It's grapefruit German
and
beer.
in the first 8 weeks after the tornado, 8 of those houses sold. We had realtors that were coming around knocking on the door. If you'd like to sell your house, I've got somebody that will buy it sight unseen. And said, so my next door neighbor is
Rochelle's
to
the
my
tornado that gave you chills, Andy? Yeah. Y'all know the Rochelle videos are terrifying too. Same, Andrew. It's Gerald and Joplin for me. Always has been. That's why the first one I ever wanted to cover was Gerald, because it's just horrifying.
north, sold, and the guy that moved in was himself and his 2 dogs, and I said, how are you? And he said, well, we're better now. He said when the tornado hit, he stepped into a closet with he and his 2 dogs and she pulled the door shut, holding it against the wind, and when it was over, he stepped outside and all there was the closet. So I've told that story several times, and it remains to be true as well. Big box stores, we'll talk about that.
God, that is
on the bottom
unreal.
left over there, that's St. John's Hospital in the background. It's now gone. We'll have some better
hold on,
photographs of
wardrobe
that.
malfunction.
Also vehicles all over the place, left and right. Flags were everywhere. Immediately everybody put out American flags. They put out flags for their home states. We saw those all over the place. Joplin Fire Department and our regional work that we had. Bottom left is a Humvee. I called for the MONG, the Missouri National
I'm going to finish this stream before I finish my 3rd beer because we don't want to get too weird in this stream, okay? I'm just letting y'all know.
Guard. We asked them to come armed. That took some conversation back and forth. And they said, why? I said, well, we're not asking you to shoot citizens, of course. What we're asking for is an armed presence. We would like to have a law enforcement a official or military official displaying about every block or every other block. Our police chief, Lane Robert, he told me that we had less than 100 instances
That
of
is
looting
unreal.
in that
Holy
area.
cow.
And most of those people were out-of-towners. They weren't ours. We had one guy drive by in an old beat-up pickup truck. He had a magnetic construction sign on the side of the truck, a hard hat, an orange vest, and 6 window unit air conditioners in the back of his truck, right? Can we see you, please? Pull him over side, talk to him, haul him off. We had scavengers
Am I a lightweight? Yes. The answer is yes.
that were coming up. And so the National Guard was a big help to us in that. The National Guard was a big help to us as well later on when we started to do the debris removal and pickup that happened. Just another long shot, we had a storm the following Tuesday night. I've never set off the sirens in a pre-planned situation, but the meteorologists were telling us that we were going to have winds in excess of 70 miles an hour that night. And we're thinking, great, there's building shingles, there's tin, there's all kinds of things that be flying around because property rights are still in effect. We did not declare martial law. So these people still own this property. I don't know where they went to sleep
Johnny G, hello. Welcome in. Welcome in. Good to have you here.
at night, but in the morning, as soon as daylight came, they would take their lawn chairs and pop them open, and they would start going through their belongings. And they were there until the sun went down. And sometimes afterwards, they'd bring in lights and family members, and they do search. And I don't blame them, trying to get exactly everything that they possibly could. So we decided that it looked like the storms were probably going to hit about 7:30 that night. Police department went out in their bullhorns, and we tried to run everybody out. We did advertisements on all 3 television stations, as well as the local radio station. They have 7 radio stations that play whatever flavor you happen to like of music, but whenever there is severe weather, they go wall to wall and simulcast on everything. So we pretty much got the word out for everybody and went ahead and sent them off that evening, just to let everybody have some idea. I lost 3 sirens during the tornado. I had somebody complain to me later on that I turned one of them off during the tornado. I said, no, that was the one that disappeared. 400-pound piece of metal, I never found it. I have no idea what.
Yeah, the Mike Bettis footage in Joplin is a pretty famous one. I think most of you have probably seen it. I do believe I included it in the Joplin video I did as well. But I mean, it's he's in this area. I don't know. I don't remember what street it specifically is, but I mean, you're just he was there right after it finished, and I can't imagine how raw that must be to just be right here as soon as that's happened, and you know people have probably not made it out of there. People are just sort of coming out of their homes after this has happened. So yeah, that footage is really intense for sure. I have worked with Ryan. Yeah. I'm curious to know what you guys think about that. If whether or not it's moral. Let's take Mike Bettis out of the equation, because I don't know that he would have filmed where he filmed knowing that there was a fatality right there. But I guess just journalists in general, or maybe storm chasers that go to a scene like this right after tornadoes happened, whether or not it's moral to film right where somebody may or may not have passed away. I personally wouldn't think so, but I also don't think that the people who were filming would do so knowing that there had been a fatality there. So I think it's always a really tricky situation where you can never really tell, right? 2 different Carlys. That's true. You can't know the whole situation filming live. Unethical but important for future reference. Okay, interesting. Some people might film or take pictures rather than helping. Okay, fair. Johnny G says, as a chaser, when I come upon damage, it's hard to even fully process what's happening before my eyes. I just film, and if I see someone that urgently needs help, I'll help. That's a great way to look at it. Lee, I don't think it's moral. I have to give them the benefit that they just don't know what may or may not be there. That's a great point. I think that's what I would tend to agree with too, is there's no way that you can fully know what's just happened inside of some of these areas. So I wouldn't fault anyone for filming because they probably don't know, but it is sort of a slippery slope, huh? As long as it's not about sensationalism, agreed. Twitter has shown me some awful chasers, so I wouldn't put it past some of them. True. Very true. Didn't show the body. Fair enough. News crews also probably have PTSD. I like that, Melissa. That's a great point. Were they filming wearing pink shirts? I'm super disrespectful right now talking about this in a pink shirt. I think most chasers stop when they see someone needs help. And then you also have the question of whether or not they are properly trained to help. Because if you're not a trained professional and you're trying to help someone medically, you can arguably do more harm than good. So I think it's a very tricky situation when you're a chaser and you come upon a situation that you may or may not know how to deal with, you know? The Joplin Chronicles, it's borderline, but I guess it also brings truth through. I don't think I have seen that, actually. Yeah, I think there's a lot of people that just want to drive through and look at stuff too. There are chasers who go out of their way to film damage and are there just for money, and I do think that's immoral. I agree with that. You can tell when Mike saw the body, he turns white. God, that's awful, huh? Thank you, Pam. It's going to be a very cozy little office. I'm going to, for my regular videos, I'm going to hang up all of my normal stuff in the back. And we're just going to have a cozy little tiny office space. I think that's going to be nice. Reed Timmer stopped and helped in Yazoo City. I believe, I from everything I've seen, Reed seems like a really nice guy. We're supposed to be watching a video, Hawkins. I'm sorry. I just can't stop talking
everything
sometimes.
that they possibly could. So we decided that it looked like the storms were probably going to hit about 7:30 that night. Police department went out in their bullhorns, and we tried to run everybody out. We did advertisements on all 3 television stations, as well as the local radio station. They have 7 radio stations that play whatever flavor you happen to like of music, but whenever there is severe weather, they go wall to wall and simulcast on everything. So we pretty much got the word out for everybody and went ahead and sent them off that evening just to let everybody have some idea. I lost 3 sirens during the tornado. I had somebody complain to me later on that I turned one of them off during the tornado. I said, no, that was the one that disappeared. 400-pound piece of metal, I never found it.
My goal is to meet Reed this year. If I can. If possible. I think that'd be great. I'd really like to.
I have no idea what happened to it.
Josh, stop. It is vanilla, okay? Well, hold on. It's
The next day, the sun shines, the bird sings, and things
it's champagne toast, okay?
start to get a little bit better the next couple days. One of the things that was very surreal about this was that all your landmarks are gone. You know, the service station that you always turn left at, the sign that you're used to seeing all the time.
All of my wall plugins are vanilla bean. I have 1 strawberry.
But you know exactly you're on the right road. None of that was there. CNN called me up and wanted me to come out on a Tuesday morning, do an interview, told me their location. No problem. I drove right to it. They weren't there. So I pulled out my phone and typed in the GPS, and it said back up 150 feet. So I backed up 150 feet, and there they were up the hill.
Carly Ann. Never mind the last A. It's just Carly Ann. I think I should change my name to that. Just Carly Ann.
Apparently I was lost. The MoDOT came in and wrote the names of all the cross streets in nice big letters. I don't know who did that, if they had a stencil or what, but they had beautiful handwriting. Big letters.
I'm distracting myself from the video. I don't think I need anyone else's help. It is fair to assume that it's vanilla, though. I am a white lady, so I think assuming it's vanilla is a pretty
like this. And so
fair
every cross
thing to
street,
do.
they wrote it on the pavement.
Honestly.
Interesting thing was putting up new signs, particularly on state and federal roads.
Y'all, this video is a whole an hour and 40 minutes long. There's clearly no way we're going to get through it. I also don't want to get too tipsy on stream, so I might end it soon just because I'm working on this beer, so. I pronounced Yazoo right. What do some people say, Yazoo? Carly Anna is truly an incredibly southern name. Carly Anna. I think at least 60% of my classmates in Tennessee had the middle name Anna. Ooh, Lynn is a classic southern name too. Rebecca Lynn. We can't get too rowdy in the stream, Morgan. We're supposed to be somber. I remember when Greensburg was rebuilding NASCAR. What? NASCAR drivers stopped by and helped. Wow. I wish I would have known that. I would have put it in my video when I made it. My tolerance is bad. Fair. Fair. Yeah, I think I'm going to end it pretty soon. I don't want to get too wild on live stream. So the plan, I'll just tell you guys, this week I'm going to be working on hanging up all my stuff in the back. So we've got the little tiny office space here. Little tiny. And so just getting that decorated and getting all the stuff hung up. And I'm going to be working on the Tri-State video this week. Somber and sober. Am I getting lit over here? No. Never. Have I lost weight? I don't know. Maybe I have. Perhaps. Yeah, so office decorated this week. I'm going to be refilming the Tri-State tornado video for the third time. Third time is the charm. And I also have a sponsorship that I'm working on. I did a small post for it in my last video, the South American tornadoes video. I'm working with Tempest and I have their weather station and I really like it. So I'm going to be doing a full review of the Tempest weather station. That's going to be out sometime in March. I don't have a definitive timeline on that, so look out for that, the Tempest video. I'm gonna make me bigger here. And the Tri-State tornado video. So those are my next two things that I'm working on. And if you guys have any recommendations, feel free to send them to me. You can also DM me on Twitter or Instagram. I do have both of those. Do a video on the 2002 La Plata tornado. I can do that. We have someone from Sweden in the chat in 4 feet of snow right now watching me, a southerner. I'm glad you guys are enjoying. Yeah, things are a little weird right now, and this is a time of change for me. And but I'm really looking forward to it. I'm really looking forward to this year in content creation and getting to know you guys and just moving forward and being positive. So I hope you guys will look forward to the third version of the Tri-State tornado very soon and the Tempest review. I think I'll make it a fun video so you guys will enjoy it. And yeah, do a video on South American, Central American tornadoes. I just did. If you go to my channel, you'll see that that's the last one I did. Am I a gay weather icon? I'm flattered if you think so. Change is good. I'm looking forward to change, everybody. Yeah. Thank you, Joshman, for coming. I feel very flattered that you're here. I'm very excited. You've made me laugh and smile through a lot of tough times, so I'm thankful. And thank you, Andy, for being here too. I'm gonna end it before I get too sentimental. So thank you guys so much for coming. Wherever you are, I hope you're having a wonderful night. And yeah, thank you for joining. We'll do this again soon. And yeah. Okay. I hope you all have a wonderful night, and I will see you guys soon.